The African Union Assembly has appointed President William Ruto of Kenya as the champion for institutional reform. Hello, I'm Mahlet, Ayele, your host at Connect Africa, bringing you the latest from the continent. Now, this news came today or this morning when the 37th Ordinary Summit of the African Union was convened in the capital of Africa in Addis Ababa at its headquarters at the African Union. Now, President Ruto will be replacing President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, who will step down after serving for 7 years, meaning leading this institution set up by the African Union. Now, so President Ruto will take over now from his counterpart, President Paul Kagame, of course, and then a statement issued by State House on Saturday indicated that the Assembly of the African Union, heads of states and government, has best owed on President Ruto the responsibility of providing political leadership and vision and competing the comprehensive institutional reform initiatives that was started in 2016. So it was from 2016 up until the end of 2023, it was President Paul Kagame. Now, the question is that what we want to look at. Now, what are, of course, we have to give you a background. What are those initiatives or those tasks, activities that are started in 2016? What are the committees? What are the outcomes? What are the shortfalls? Okay, these are the things we will look at. And secondly, the question is that will President William Ruto be able to lead that, meaning bring the necessary change or reform, given that his experience in which is only a year and a half only in office. As we know, he came to power in August 2022. And so first, it's important, of course, to look at the what is the African Union champion for institutional reform, which I will give you, I'm going to analyze for you in a second. But let us just look at what President Ruto said when he was appointed as this, to lead this institution. He said, quote opens, "I'm truly honored to accept this responsibility." Now, President Ruto declared upon receiving the appointment, okay? Now, Africa needs a strong and efficient AU or African Union capable of responding to our continent's challenges and delivering on our aspirations. I commit to working tirelessly with all member states to achieve meaningful institutional reform that will benefit all Africans. Quote closed. That's what he said upon receiving this responsibility. Now, just summarizing then, what did the people say, the Kenyans, when they hear this? So they said the move, garnered mixed reactions from analysts and observers. Some hailed President Ruto's experience and commitment to regional integration as assets for the role, but others raised concerns regarding relatively short tenure in office and this might bring a potential destruction, political destruction that he has at home. So these are, let's say, opportunity and challenges what will come with President Ruto's appointment. Now, however, we all agree as an African that African Union needs a successful reform and implementation of the AU reforms it's crucial for the continent's future and for the people. Now, with its growing population, vast resources, mismanaged resources, neo-colonization, ambitious development goals that are never attained. So Africa needs a robust and effective continental body to navigate the complex global landscape and ensure its own sustainable progress. Now, will he be able to do it? Now, I'm going to share this with you. It's from the AU page itself, and I'm going to read it for you. Some of them just summarizing. So it was in 2016 that, just to give you a background, okay, it was in 2016 the African leaders decided that institutional reform is needed. So it was urgent and necessary given the role the AU is expected to play, especially the financial crisis that AU is never able to fund itself. Even, the little, percentage that it is covering out of all its costs, not even the administration cost is covered by the African Union. Most of it comes by donors, and those donors have direct role in in the African Union agenda. They set the agenda, they dictate the union basically. Now, President Paul Kagame was appointed or mandated by the Assembly of Heads of States in July 2016 to lead the process. So now he appointed a Pan-African advisory group that, consisted different people who have served their government from various regions of the continent. Now, he has from Cape Verde, also from the African Development Bank, also the McKinsey and Company, also the Dr. Carlos Lopez of the UNECA, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. He has from the South African Reserve Bank, from Nigeria, from Chad, and International Financial, the West and Central Africa of International Finance Cooperation. So all these people from this ministerial positions and different continental bodies have been appointed as a task committee, and now they were expected to do an analysis of the AU, which they have identified what are the challenges. Now, these are what the challenges that they have identified. The AU is highly fragmented with too many focus areas. The second one is the AU's complicated structure and limited managerial capacity leads to inefficient working methods, poor decision making, and lack of accountability. The other areas I have identified is that the AU is neither financially dependent the AU is neither financially independent nor self-sustaining, relying instead on partner funding for much of its financing. And this is crucial. This is the key amongst all those challenges that are identified. Now, the last ones I have identified is a limited communication or coordination between the African Union and the regional bodies like the Eastern African Community, the ECOWAS, the SADC, and the Central Africa, all of them, okay? There's a limited coordination. Now, what are the outcomes? So they have identified the challenge. Now they have been consulting. So these are the outcomes. Again, it's just identifying. The AU needed to focus on a fewer priority areas with continental scope. The other one is need to review the structure and operation of the African Union and ensure institutional realignment for better service delivery. The AU needs to connect with African citizens. The AU needs to become operationally effective and efficient in the performance of its mandate. And the AU needs to identify and implement sustainable financing for its programs and reduce over-reliance on development partners. Most of the time, the European countries and the US and the World Bank, I don't know, all of those things that you need to actually break away. Now, it's the last outcome, but it's the crucial one. It is a major reason why, the AU needed this organ of the AU champion for institutional reform, because of its lack of, self-sustainability. That is a major reason. Now, to ensure that, the reform recommendations are implemented, it was recommended that the AU establish a high-level supervision, which is sitting in the African Union itself, and that was led by two people. That was a former, foreign minister of Cameroon, and then another one was, she was from where? A chief of staff at the African Union, high representative for the financing of the union. So those were the people who were leading. Now, result is not really, but actually this was established in 2016. Now, there was some kind of improvement in 2018. Let me just share that with you with their budget, okay? Now, it's not nice only to talk about the criticism, but now the little improvement that they have shown was, let me just share that in a minute. Okay, this one, right? Okay, this is what I wanted to show you. Look at it. In 2019, actually, budget of the African Union, it was analyzing what was from 2015, 1 year prior to the establishment of this institution, and up until the end of 2018. Look at it, a 60% of, actually 66% of member states, 66% of the budget was contributed by the member states, okay? Now, the other one is the 34% came from the partners or development partners, as they call it. These are, as I said, mostly their former colonizers of the continent and the US. And they have big say. They have big say than the member states themselves. Now, this is not really something that continued until now. Now, in 2023, if I show you, already two, researchers, a publication from the ISS Institute for Security Studies shows that actually, despite efforts to reduce its dependency, meaning AU's dependency on development partners, 2/3 of the AU's 2023 budget comes from external sources. Okay, this is the problem. External sources. Now, for example, the AU funding situations means international partners' interests often drive partnership. It's only for interest they fund you. There's no free lunch. The European Peace Facility, for example, allows direct funding for a broad range of continental peace support operation, even those not authorized by the Peace and Security Organ of the African Union. They just do it at direct, just passing the African Union, authority. Now, this includes, for example, what the European Peace Facility, it's this organization is a very problematic one, by the way. Now, this includes the African military coalitions that they fund. This also national armies, even Nigeria's army, they fund, and the Gulf of Guinea also, their navy is funded by this. Now, this breaks the norm of channeling funds through the AU. It's a move that could prove counterproductive. So normally it was through the African Union, but now the European Peace Facility, it's a very dangerous organization, is doing it directly whenever they have an interest with those countries. They just supply arms or whatever in the name of peace. They do a lot of things, that will end up, the supplying of arms also will end up neighboring countries killing each other. So that is, as far as the African Union, the African Union champion for institutional reform. So, I'm focusing on the financial part because that is the major problem of the union. And now there was these things, I think it's President Kagame who championed it. He introduced this, levy tax on imported goods, and actually few countries, less than 20 countries, were able to do it. I think Ethiopia and Rwanda are amongst in this. They have that 0.2% tax. With that, they are able to be committed for their annual contribution to the African Union, because most of them, they were not doing it, and there's no sanction, nobody's penalizing them, because the heads of states have more authority than the chairperson itself. So if that levy or that tax was really enforced on all African countries, I mean, there are African countries who are, without even collecting that tax from their citizens, that they are able to do it. Usually there are a big 5 countries like Egypt, South Africa, and mostly in the northern African country who are able to do it. But mostly it's important. But that introduction by Paul Kagame has done really a tremendous job, for countries even who were not paying duly as annual contribution, were able to do it without collection of taxes. Now, to question, of course, what the African Union regarding President William Ruto's appointment is that now we have seen, I came here and I have analyzed, President William Ruto's, this Pan-African speech, but when you see it on the ground, it's really zero. So zero implementation. In fact, you find him doing contrary, totally un-Pan-African thing. For example, he has championed, he talked about, about the African Continental Free Trade Area, and you see him signing with the Europeans, with the EU, transacting, instead of transacting with the neighboring countries, he is doing his import and export with the European ones after making a big speech of the African Continental Free Trade Area. And, his approach, the very reason that helped him to be elected was his bottom-up approach, to the poor Kenyans. But that has been denied, and actually he went in a different direction when he agreed with IMF and removed all the subsidies that were helping the poor Kenyans. Now, that's also something, you find him talking, but practically he's not there. And another example is we saw him on the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, talking about that we will, African leaders will stop going, this Turkey Africa Summit, the China Africa Summit, the Japan Africa Summit, and we will that there will go only few delegates, and to bring those summits to Africa. Now, we have seen, in fact, President William Ruto is the most traveled president of Kenya. Most of his travels are more than 50% are not within the continent, but outside the continent. And we have seen him attending all those countries whenever they have this and that Africa Summit in their country. He's the first to travel. And recently we have seen him in the Italy Africa Summit. Many of them in the US Africa Summit, you name it, in every one of them, he was there. So we haven't seen a change, although he has said a lot of things. So now, will he be able to do that? A person that, who did not deliver what he's talking about, even on a country level, to the nations that he's governing, how he will be able to lead this task, which is a continental wide. I will leave the answer to you, but I will say this. Now, my recommendation to the African Union is that, we Africans are awake. We are no more, waiting for your 50 years agenda, like the Agenda 2063. Also, it's really beautiful on a paper, but practically it has been more than 10 years. And a decade, the flagship projects that you have set up for 10 years are not even met. Just 10 years, 12 years is just gone like that. The Agenda 2063 was introduced in 2013, but we haven't seen nothing. And only the African Continental Free Trade, that's also on the agreement level. When it comes to implementation, they know it already. There are a lot of challenges. Now, also what I want to say is that, We are not going to wait anymore for your 50 years agenda, which is zero result. Now, we, citizens of Africa, of this generation, have witnessed something that works, the formation of the Alliance of the Sahel States. It's becoming what we thought the African Union would become, what we thought even the ECOWAS would become, because those are the very founding principles of the African Union, or even the regional bodies. But the Alliance of the Sahel States is implementing that. It's becoming a reality of that. So we have seen a tremendous change in less than 2 years after these leaders came to power, namely Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. They have made a radical change in their respective countries. So we know that this is possible. You don't need a 50-year, a half-century plan. You do not need even a 10-year plan. It can be done if there is a will from such a committed leaders. And we definitely know that the African Union, your club members, do not qualify for that. Anyways, fam, let us know in the comment section, what do you think of this, of Ruto's appointment of the African Union champion for institutional reform, and in general, the institution itself, in terms of bringing the needed change to the continent. Please share your view in the comment section. That was it for me for now, but I will remind you to subscribe to the channel, to give it thumbs up, and to share the video with your network. If you want to help us further, please go ahead and donate to our PayPal account. You can find it in the description section. It's a bye-bye for me for now. Thank you again for tuning in.